El gusto de inaugurar la mesa de cierre de este hermoso congreso. Gracias a todos por participar. Y bueno, y ahora particularmente a Alex Taekwanli, perdón, que tuvo la amabilidad de venir hasta nuestro sur desde tan lejos, largo viaje. Así que bueno, muchas gracias, bienvenido. Él pertenece a la Kyunhee University y va a hablar sobre el delirio de la esclavitud maquínica, Urstadt y postmedia en Corea del Sur.
Thank you. My name, Alex, is a Catholic name, and Taekwang is my Korean name. It means big lake, big lake. So thank you very much for attending this session, and then I'm very honored to be here. And this session is specially designed for Korean studies, so I hope I can deliver this unfamiliar topic to you. So I would like to begin actually my presentation with introducing kind of episode about BTS, Korean boy band. On 26th of October in 2018, okay, Tokyo Sports, a well-known right-wing newspaper in Japan, reported that Jimin, one of the members of BTS means a bulletproof boy band or something like that. A very strange name, but actually BTS, 방탄소년단, is Korean. It bulletproof, boys. That means that those bands aimed at protecting teenagers from any crime or some violence, something like that. That's why they call themselves bulletproof, boys to protect you, something like that. So Jimin, one of the leading members of this BTS boy band, the mega popular Korean boy band, BTS, wore T-shirts. Jimin wore T-shirts with the image of atomic bombing of Nagasaki and Hiroshima during the Second World War was printed. The newspaper insisted that means the Japanese newspaper, right-wing newspaper, insisted that Japan canceled their appearance and scheduled performance at the Tokyo Dome. In those days, BTS was supposed to be in Tokyo Dome. To have a performance in Tokyo Dome means something in Asia. That means if you are banned, you doing that kind of performance at Tokyo Dome in Japan, it means you are quite successful, band in market. But actually, this right-wing, the Japanese newspaper actually insisted. They actually ridiculed Japan by actually wearing that kind of T-shirts, which actually, the atomic bombing, actually, printed. So Jimin apologized for his ignorance regarding perceived symbolic meaning of a shirt, and then promised his Japanese fans to mull over violence of warfare more carefully. He did not admit that he had any political aim with what was indicated in the shirt, because he simply wore it out of respect for one of his fans who had sent it to his as gift. So he said actually, I just wore the T-shirt without any intention. Simply, I tried to express my gratitude to my fan who sent that T-shirts. However, the words repeatedly printed on the shirt, that means actually what is printed on the shirts, against the image of a mushroom cloud, word patriotism, our story, liberation, Korea. That is the actual slogan on that shirt. As a slogan to justify nationalist sentiment of the country, that means Korean nationalism, it showed that. That means it would justify the right-wing Japanese newspapers' argument against BTS. BTS would have some kind of nationalist intention to ridicule Japanese fans, something like that. Whatever his real motivation was, the incident quickly boiled down to Jimin's naivety. Nevertheless, because of his apology, the controversy was quickly quelled. However, I argued that controversy about the message on Jimin's shirt was not accidental, but a consequence of a paradox between nationalism and cosmopolitanism in global capitalism. As a global commodity, BTS should be cosmopolitan. Nevertheless, members of members of nation state, the members of BTS cannot transcend their nationality. This is a paradox, I would like to say. In delusional sense, paradox always reveal the kind of, the milieu and in which we can intervene in political sense. So Jimin's performance to commemorate Korea's National Liberation Day by wearing the shirt engaged not just the Japanese nationalists, but also sparked a heated debate among BTS fans in Japan about shirt's message. The printed phrases appealed to encourage the United States deployment of atomic bombs against Japan, which pacifist Dorothy Day, she was a Catholic, pacifist, described as colossal slaughter of innocents. At the same time, worldwide news organizations such as the BBC, CNN, and The Guardian were drawn to the controversy revolving around the BTS T-shirts. They speculated that Jimin wore the T-shirt in question to express political opinion influenced by the rising tension between South Korea and Japan. However, Big Hit Entertainment, the company that manages BTS, stressed that Jimin's printed shirt was not meant to convey any political message. So against this kind of journalism, company insists there is no actually political motivation. The company insisted that the artist was not responsible for the message because he had no intention of stirring the dispute in the first place. In short, the company seemed to confirm that Jimin was clueless about the deeper meaning of a commemorative gift, and his deviation resulted from a naive attitude towards realpolitik. The company's clarification mature person who cannot understand humanitarian issue concerning atomic bombing. This implies that BTS' ethical statement about their love for humanity is suspect. As is generally known, they were invited to speak before the United Nations General Assembly and were awarded Order of Cultural Merit by Korean government. Even they were invited by Biden, President Biden in America, and then actually announced that the peace, the world peace, something like that. But as a result, Jimin's lack of awareness of humanitarian or humanistic concerns clashes with the image that BTS would like to project. Meanwhile, things would have worsened if the announcement were wrong and Jimin had known its political implication as well. It would have meant that, together with the company, he lied to people so that he could quickly extricated himself from difficulties. Both are worse. Jimin would tend to his fans who sent a shirt to him. His deed was not politically wrong and morally right, because he tried to treat his fan properly. The gesture of wearing a gift is not necessarily a politically motivated act, as it could simply be a gesture of gratitude. However, the effect of action brought forth an unpredictable result. Why this disturbance take place then? Of course, it is not due to Jimin's fault. It responds, some journalists in South Korea argue that BTS must establish more practical strategies for the global market by diluting the touch of Koreanness. This kind of advice for better business bluntly reveals symbolic implication BTS and other K-pop industries. One could argue that Jimin is a victim of the K-pop industry, which has strategically positioned its cultural products as a global commodity beyond the national borders. Ironically, in this effort, Korean pop idols like BTS must abandon their Koreanness, its nationality, or national identity. In this context, Jimin is caught at the center of a dialectical relationship between nationalism and cosmopolitanism. Even some journalists are convinced that BTS is a commodity for the global market, and as such, it needs to erase its nationality tactically. Quite in the composite, On the contrary, the controversy concerning Jimin's shirt is not caused by the lack of a musician's strategic approach to the global market, but by the iron cage of dialectical relationship between nationalism and cosmopolitanism. The dialectics of identity is where the national question arises. What I mean is that is a paradox, all right? In this sense, the problem of BTS has nothing to do with individual moral integrity or cultural awareness, but rather structural overdetermination revolving around a nation state. The Enlightenment idea of cosmopolitanism aims at the production of a civil society. Immanuel Kant argues that hospitality is an essential characteristic of cosmopolitanism. The point is that personal kindness does not rest on philosophical, philanthropic generosity, but the right to visit to where all human beings have a claim to present oneself to society by virtue of the right of common possession of surface of the earth. End quote. However, Kant did not know that nation-states were eventually controlled common. After the First World War, the temporary imposition of passport controls became permanent, and the laissez-faire era of international migration ended. Nationality relies on the technical partition of a common right. Kant thought that right to travel across the territory is self-evident, yet the right to travel needs another right, that is to say, the political right to insist on the right to visit or reside in any nation state. The dispute with Jimin's shirt revealed a clash between nationalism and cosmopolitanism, but still, the episode does not mean the two values are incompatible. As Hannah Arendt points out, quote, once they had left their homeland, they remained homeless. Once they had left the state, they became stateless. Once they had been deprived of their human rights, they were rightless, the scum of the earth, end quote. In other words, a nation-state is foundation of such a common right, the condition of humanity, which can allow anyone legitimacy to get into or out national borders. Two historical arguments of nation-states might be considered here. First, a conservative viewpoint that the nation-state is realized form of a nation, the nation without corresponding states remain frozen in the form of infancy. And second, a Marxist one that states that, quote, the tendency towards articulation between the nation and the state is an effect of development capitalism, end quote. Of course, Jimin's understanding of a relationship between the nation and the state will be close to the former, the traditional perspective. However, this identification of a nation with the establishment of a state is unsuited to cosmopolitanism. Following this logic, there is no cosmopolitanism without nation-state. The nation-state is materialization of the nation, the juridical, political substance of imagined community. Proceeding from this reasoning, Jimin would believe that he did the right thing when celebrating National Liberation Day, because he believed that nationalism is a good thing, to celebrate my actually nation state is good. Actually, that, the good thing caused unpredictable bad thing, That's what I'm saying. From the perspective of what might be regarded as kind of a Manichaean dichotomy, any violence destroying the opposite is the best. The more ruthless to the foe, the enemy, the better to us. Nationalism cannot justify its logic from within, but rather gains its meaning by defining the enemy from the without, because the origins of any nation are not self-evident. There is a fundamental discrepancy between nation-state and nation in the imaginary, yet nationalism as a fantasy seals the split seamlessly. The ideological unity of a nation and a state is inevitably disrupted by capitalism. In this view, nationalism is an intellectual interpolation to develop nation-state subject and advanced imagined basis of legal nationality. Nationality is the precondition to human rights. A man's right is not automatically given by natural law, but rather obtained by citizenship of nationality. Unlike Kant's proposition, cosmopolitan citizenship is founded on the paradox of human condition in the modern age. We human beings have no self-evident right to reside any place without nationality, even if we travel around international borders. There is no such thing as the absolute right of self-determination except in the nation-state as historical phenomenon. That means without a nation-state, without a passport, we cannot travel. That is evidence, that without nation-state, we don't have any right to reside. So, nationality is the real border in the age of nation-state. Those who have no right to reside within boundary will be regarded as the scum of the earth. If you don't have any kind of nationality, you'll be regarded as trash, okay? This is a refugee. This stateless status is called refugees. In my opinion, the existence of refugees proves how the nation-state serves as a form of capitalist accumulation. Refugees who do not have any national identification are deemed as reckless as waste. They have no legal right to allow them to work in Asian states. Refugees are useless because they are not exchangeable in the national mode of production. That means in Marxian sense, you cannot sell your neighbor power in the Asian state. That is refugee. So refugees are useless in this sense. If refugees desire to be exchanged, they must commodify themselves. The commodification of their labor power is the only way to exist in capitalism. For instance, Steve Jobs, he's actually a refugee from Syria. He actually can, make, him commodity, labor power, and then he could be actually, residing in America. However, a citizenship is the legal right to sell living labor in the nation state. However, the case of BTS clarifies that the juridical politics must approve any commodity of the nation state. Of course, the commodity goes global, but its trade or sale must have juridical approval. As Karl Marx points out, commodity cannot themselves go to a market and perform exchange in their own right. This juridical relation is nothing else than the contract between different individual wills, which depends on economic relation. So without, the law, you cannot sell any commodity. That means without the law, you cannot sell yourself. This is very important. Juridical, political. Sorry about this. Now, okay. And then this kind of situation would, bring us sort of, machinic, actually, the enslavement of nationalism and the state power. And then, okay, just now I'm actually getting into, the Deleuze Guattari's the analysis of this kind of state power, and then also the try to find out kind of alternative politics to nationalism. The myth of an authentic state has given rise to the modern invention of a nation. Gilles Deleuze and Felix Guattari conceptualized Urstaat for explaining the relationship between production and the state. For them, there has never been one state, but rather many coexisting variations of primal state, even in a specific period. The possible proliferation of many states comes up from the desire of the Urstaat. Quote, whence the variation, all the variants of the new alliance falling nevertheless under the same category, end quote. In this, it is a double error to say that the development of commodity production is enough to bring about feudalism's collapse, and the feudalism of itself is in opposition to the state. Actually, that is exactly what we have today. The capitalism is, the overcome of feudalism. At the end of feudalism, capitalism comes out. But Deleuze and Guattari argue quite different way. Even though capitalist states and socialist states come to exist, the traits of a primordial despotic state still remain. Why? As I said, we actually have a desire toward cosmopolitanism. Why actually nation states still have power? Why, does the nation state control our existence? That's actually the question raised by Deleuze and Guattari. Unlike much of development theory, that means actually they attack a little bit, it's not a rejection of that kind of Marxist understanding of a development state, but they try to find out another explanation. So unlike much of development theory, which justifies the beginning of capitalism as the end of feudalism, commodity production reinforces the condition of feudalist features, while state with the feudalist remnant remain commodity against the decoding of flaws. Where is it? That is Asiatic mode of production. All right? We still live in this colonial whatever called, this is even Asia, Asiatic mode of production. So therefore, it is useless to list differences between each political regime according to the manner of conscientious historians. No doubt this point brings back the loyalty critical Paul Ricoeur about the objective knowledge of history, a little bit complicated experience needed, but I skip up. Following pronounced Brudel's, the assumption, Brudel's assumption, Deleuze and Guattari emphasized that capitalism came to exist through a state form. Once capitalism attains the modern state as its models of realization, the global axiomatic of capitalism begins to be realized like a single city, megalopolis, or mega machine, of which the states are parts or neighborhoods. In this point, actually, what must be stressed is definitely they understand, the Deleuze and Guattari understand the state as kind of mega machine, is a machine. When capitalism completes an axiomatic, all states and all social formation gravitate towards isomorphic in their capacity as models of a realization. This capitalist axiomatic is nothing else than the centralized market system, in which even the socialist countries participate. That is what we actually observed in the Soviet Union. The machinic enslavement of capitalism results from its dominant state form over diverse social formations. This rule of a central state is the way by which capitalism traps the third world. Deleuze and Guattari, in this sense, he actually emphasized how the relationship, this kind of, the machinic enslavement of capitalism, actually the controlled, third world. However, this, capitalist domination always already contains its paradox from within. When its global organization turns to be the capitalist axiomatic, it cannot help implying heterogeneity of social formation, which gives rise to and organizes its third world. The establishment of the capitalist state is machinic processes rather than consequence of development. Even if its capture is dominant, there is always something that escapes from the processes such as towns or war machines. In Anti-Oedipus, Deleuze and Guattari points out that capitalism hides the trace of Urstadt beneath the blows of private property, then of commodity production, and thus state witness its decline. The main feature of capitalism are the breakdown of cause. From this perspective, Deleuze and Guattari bluntly demonstrate that advent of a state does not proceed by progressive homogenization or by totalization, but by the taking on the consistency or the consolidation of diverse as such. So this is a machine, The triumph of capitalism has nothing to do with its necessity, but instead with the contingent crystallization of the machinic process. This observation leads to understand the fandom around the BTS, If the juridical foundation of a state is not necessary and capitalism is the contingent consequence, there might not be any legitimate contract between individual wills. Furthermore, the fan's activity are inappropriate for the juridical relationship between BTS and the entertainment company. As a cultural commodity, consumer cannot own BTS as such, and the contract belongs to the relation between BTS and Big Hit Entertainment. The only thing that the fan can do within the monetary exchange system is to enjoy consuming the volatile moments of BTS performance. Today's development of telecommunication technology, that is to say social media and streaming services, makes it possible to retain the temporal experience in the digital tertiary retention in Stiegler's tense. The audiences can watch what they want anytime by replaying those recorded performances. However, they do not want to give up the authentic relationship with their idols. Technology provides them with a medium that enables them to sustain their feeling continuously. In this vein, the BTS fandom army is contradicted through a contract. Okay, they are bound with BTS not profit-based, but rather affinity beyond any economic interest. So this is, in my opinion, capitalist delirium. All right, the commodity would be consumed by this kind of fandom, so kind of madness, and this would create kind of a delirium. And this delirium is where we can intervene. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Alex, very much. Now we are passing the word to Chef Bradley from the Tokyo University. El nombre de su ponencia, perdón, me quedé en inglés, de los nudos de la sociedad coreana, Line, Reich y Byung-Chul Han. Chef, your microphone.
Thank you very much, sir. How do you, excuse me, how do you like a play?
What should we do?
A presentation.
Presentation.
And like this one.
From the beginning.
This is okay like this, okay? Yeah, it's fine. Right. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. This is part of a project with Tai Kwang Lee, been going on in India, and for the last before the Corona pandemic, and then now in Korea. And this is our concept of critical post-media. So we're trying to move Guattari's studies on and make it more relevant. But today I'd like to discuss my my apostasy of my rejection of Deleuze and Guattari. And this has been coming for a few years, but it's come to a head. And like perhaps some of you, I was seduced by Deleuze and Guattari when I was a student in the 1990s, so that's quite a long time ago. This was the time after the collapse of the Berlin Wall, okay, 1989, the end of the Soviet Empire and the vanishing of Marxism. But I was mesmerized by Deleuze and Guattari, mesmerized, like the concept of the rhizome, yeah, or the line of flight, or deterritorialization, mesmerized, okay? And I was attracted to a particular reading of Deleuze and Guattari, like a Nietzschean anti-politics, someone like Nick Land, okay, the dark arts of Nick Land, okay? Even the idea of the cyborg, of the overman as a cyborg, okay? But today my comments come 30 years after that time, okay? And now 50 years after the publication of Anti-Oedipe, 50 years, okay? But I still think Anti-Oedipe is a great book of ethics and political philosophy. So my skepticism about Deleuze and Guattari is still here. I still question Deleuze and Guattari, especially when I become a very kind of grumpy old man, okay? But today I'm going to defend them against new, trendy kind of critics of Deleuze and Guattari. So, but before I get to that, excuse me. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the limits of Deleuze and Guattari's thought after they died in 1990s and then 50 years after Anti-Oedipus, okay? So this is my quote that I brought to Mexico. This is by Guattari, okay? He's writing before the World Wide Web, 1993, about there, okay? And he says, the future is going to be in big cities or countries like Bangladesh and Mexico and Tokyo, where I kind of work. And millions of people congregate, okay? And now, just today, in fact, yesterday in Tokyo, 35 million people have been told to cut down their electricity because of the heat wave problem. So this is real ecology in practice, okay? But Guattari is, Guattari says we have to reinvent, okay, our technologies, our bodies, our languages, and maybe new technologies can help us to change something, right? Maybe they can change something. But no, 2022, optimism, it's all gone, okay? We are at the end of history again, okay? We live and think like pigs, like wild animals, like adult beasts, like cyber cattle, like neural livestock, like cyber livestock, okay? Like the kids walking around with the Walkmans in their ears, okay, talking to themselves, okay? Okay, so we have let's see. We have this series, okay, We have a series of a mole and the serpent, okay? The worming man, I'll talk about that with Wilhelm Reich. Cybercattle, the wild animal. This is, you find this, the wild animal in Bernard Stiegler and Han Byung-chul, and the adult beast in Alexander Kojev, the animalized otaku in Azuma Hiroki's work, and the concept of the hikikomori. So I'm going to talk about hikikomori today, okay, which is social recluse, okay. And then we kind of move on to some other things like the la bête immonde, the hideous beast, okay. This is Bernard Stiegler's concept, okay. So we have a movement from disciplined societies, yeah, to controlled societies, and now uncontrollable societies, okay? Uncontrollable societies, okay? So I think we have kind of passed from Deleuze's metaphor of the mole. You can kind of see it, the mole on the left here, okay? Then to the serpent, okay? And now to Han Byung-chul's concept of the wild animal, the multitasking wild animal, right? And then I think that the hikikomori, the social recluse, yeah, is a little bit like Wilhelm Reich's worm in man. Wilhelm Reich, okay, I'll talk about Wilhelm Reich a little, okay? So let me say something about Wilhelm Reich, okay? Because he's absolutely forgotten. People who read Anti-Oedipus now don't know anything about Wilhelm Reich. Nothing about him. Not even his name, almost, okay? So, the idea of the worm in man. This is from the psychoanalyst, Freud's favorite kind of student, right? Wilhelm Reich. Okay, so the worm in man, it's parasitical, it's cancerous, okay? It rises when we crawl into ourselves, okay? When desire is is denied its expression, okay? And if we want to use Deleuze and Guattari's language, this is when the desiring machines break down, okay? When the body without organs, it curls up upon itself, okay? So, the worm in man, it festers when the self and the body, when it closes off the world, and it plunges and it spirals into itself. In this way, hikikomori, Japanese word hikikomori, social recluse, can be understood as the worm in man, okay? This is disastrous processual schizophrenia. Disastrous, okay? This is a diminishing of self-awareness. This is called a disturbance of ipseity. A disturbance of ipseity. So, I think Reich, in his day, he was right to ask the question, why is there so much narcissism, so much self-harm, so much love for this worm in man? Now, in our time, this worm in man seems to have like a metamorphosis, okay? From the serpent, as I mentioned, okay? From the mole to the serpent, and now to this new wild multitasking animal. Okay? So, let me just explain. The serpent is a different kind of animal than the mole, as Deleuze explains in the postscript. Okay? And as we know, Deleuze finds it absolutely horrifying that young people desire constant training and constant improvement and constant performance valorization. My daughter is exactly like this now. She's become serpent. You know? Crazy. So, Deleuze warns us that something comes from the outside. Famously, he says, the coils of the serpent are even more complex than the burrows of the molehill. But again, I think there's a third metamorphosis, okay? Here, Han Byung-chul, the Korean German philosopher, he makes a difference between the mole and the serpent, okay? So the mole is like the laborer, and the serpent is the entrepreneur. You know, everybody has to be entrepreneur now, okay? So, the entrepreneur is the animal of the neoliberal regime, Han Byung-chul says. So we have a movement from the mole to the serpent, and the serpent is like always wants more and more productivity, yeah? And then the wild animal. This is the multitasking wild animal, and Bernard Stiegler talks about this too, okay? So the wild animal, it performs tasks unconsciously. This is a kind of constant relay between what is called consumptive attention and deep distraction. And I think this is kind of close to Chatelet's cybercattle, okay? So in the multitasking wild animal, and the wild animal is like Alexander Kodjev's image of the adult beast at the end of history, right? There's a kind of some interesting thing there. Okay, so we have like a flat form of attention, okay, and a symbolic misery. This is Stiegler's concept, okay. So the wild animal, it marks the loss of flow. This is the rise of deadly repetitions, like stimming and perseveration. Stimming is when we do things like without pleasure, just tapping on the phone like crazy people, right? Okay. This is a kind of obsession without rhyme or reason. There's no reason to it, no pleasure. Well, in Han Byung-chul's work, we find a description of Korean society. Okay, I'll list it for you. Burnout society, achievement society, swarm society, transparent society, society of attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Okay, and I think this is the society of the social recluse, the hikikomori, and the society of autistic people. A society overseeing the collapse and disaster of desire. This is a society of self-marooned workaholics, with no relation to alterity, to like a relation from me to you, right? So this is a society without risk. There is no risk. I mean, if I look at you and I make contact with you, this is risk, okay, according to Han Byung-chul. This is the society of psychopolitics, of integrated world capitalism. So, how does that work? Self-exploitation, narcissism, and psychic character armor. This is Wilhelm Reich's concept, okay? So, this is to protect ourselves from the risk of contamination with other people. I don't mean virus contamination, I mean like existential, phenomenological kind of contamination. This is the society of suicide, suicide of karoshi, or death from overwork. This is a society that is poor in world, and it's our future. This is my argument, okay? Korea is kind of what we're going to become, okay? And I don't think I'm alone in seeing this, okay? So I think, as I tried to show you, Guattari was trying to look at what's going to happen in the future, like Bangladesh, Mexico, Tokyo, and things like that. But something has changed. And this is where Franco Berardi is, Franco Berardi, you guys can't see it. Franco Berardi is kind of important. He says like, South Korea is like a blueprint for the future, okay? And he's trying to find what is cognitive mutation at work, okay? This is where autism increases, okay? This is where karoshi and suicide and death from overwork increases, okay? This is where precarity and exploitation increases, and Korea is one of these places of depression and loneliness and suicide. So in my case, this is what I'm interested in, the hikikomori. The hikikomori, as you can see, it means to, in Japanese, it means to pull back, and then somehow like the worm in man, okay? And then there's a connection between depression and addiction to internet, autism and things like this. And the figures are incredible. The figures could reach 10 million people in a population of 126 million, according to Saito Tamaki. So the medical research suggests that hikikomori, or social recluse, is not just Japanese cultural problem. It's a global problem. It's a problem in Asian countries, Korea, Hong Kong, and so on. It's a problem in Australasia, in Oceania, North America. So how about Mexico? How about Mexico? So that's what I became interested in. So, maybe kind of gloomy prospect, right? I apologize, okay? So I'm trying to find a kind of explosion. Where is the explosion or the eruption or the disruption? So then we can think about societies like Korean society, and maybe Japanese society, maybe Mexican society, and so on, okay? And what does the hikikomori, the social recluse, what does it kind of show? What does it kind of show us about the cessation of flow, the loss of flow, okay? Especially among young people, young Korean people, okay? And for me, this is absolute disaster of desire. It's a disaster of the body without organs, okay? Because what happens is we have enclosure within ourselves, cessation of desire. This is a deadly cycle of ipseity, a self-relation to itself, okay? This is what Wilhelm Reich calls the worm in man. Very, very prescient, okay? So what happens? We suffer narcissism and self-reference and compulsive addictions. And what else is there? There's a loss of eros, okay? Loss of desire, loss of relation to the event, loss of relation to alterity, to the other. And we have this kind of very gloomy picture by Han Byung-chul. So pornography, exhibitionism, this replaces love and desire. And what? This hides our wounds, very nice Deleuzian concept, okay? It hides our wounds and our addictions. And okay, so then we can talk about selfie culture and what this means, and this is somehow to stop us finding the relationship with to the other, to alterity, okay? And what happens with Google and things like this? He says, well, I say first of all, we Google ourselves unconscious. Also, with Han Byung-chul, we goggle ourselves, we're looking at it constantly. So, what is left, says Han Byung-chul, is the eruption of media. And Tai Kwang is talking about, young boy bands, right? So we have the eruption of media, the eruption of psychic mental woes, and we have a perversion and the pornification of our transparent selves, okay? And this is this kind of sense of positivity. This is what Han Byung-chul calls positivity, right? We have excessive positivity, and I think this is very close to what R.D. Laing, okay, the great British psychiatrist, right? What he calls the psychic tourniquet, like we strangle ourselves, right? And that's when that's when the mental knots in Korean society, when they stop the flow of desire, okay? When they constrict or compress desire, and then this becomes a kind of existential gangrene. This is what R.D. Laing says. So I think we can put someone like R.D. Laing, we can reread him alongside Wilhelm Reich, alongside contemporary philosophers like Han Byung-chul, okay, and put them together with Deleuze and Guattari, especially Guattari, okay. Because, this is my point now, so Han Byung-chul is very critical of Deleuze and Guattari, okay. He says, like the schizo image, right, it's too romantic and idealized, okay. And what is this body without organs now, says Han Byung-chul? It's become like cancerous, full of metastases and infarction. This is like a tissue death, right? Yeah? And again, this is like Reich's worm in man, okay? And this is what he says, Han Byung-chul, okay? He says, conjunction, and, Deleuzian idea, this is disaster, it's destructive, okay? It's cancerous. Again, Wilhelm Reich talks about cancer, okay? It's the hell of the same, and boy bands in Korea are the hell of the same for me, right? He goes on to say, this idea of the rhizome, okay, of the same, it's terrible, it's too much positivity. We were too afraid of the negative, okay? And then the schizo machine, or whatever that is nowadays, that produces the violence of positivity. Do you agree? Okay. Well, I think he's onto something, okay? This is what Korea is becoming, and this is what we are becoming as well. But he's not alone. So this is Baradi again, okay? And talking about the kind of explosion that the rhizome can mean, okay? It can become like a dangerous explosion, right? It's a breakdown rather than the breakthrough, if you want to use Deleuze and Guattari's language. And I think this is what is the hideous beast in Stiegler, la bête immonde. This is when our drives, our psychic drives, become disconnected from desire. Okay, this is when we act out the drives. Okay, this is when the drives are delinked from the sublime. So we can't sublimate the drives, right? We can't love. Okay, so this means that the drives can go wild, destructive, end up in violence, young people with machine guns in American society killing for no apparent reason, okay? So this is the uncontrollable society again, okay? This is the death of society, because you can't have an antisocial society, right? It's the end, okay? So for Han, the schizophrenic process, okay? Well, like in Anti-Oedipus, they have, Deleuze and Guattari have the brilliant image of the exterminating angel of capitalism. Schizo is exterminating angel, okay? Well, this has lost its diabolical, destructive and transformative potential. It's gone, okay? This is what Han Byung-chul says, okay? Because we have homogeneity, we have the excess of positivity, we have repetition for any absurd, ridiculous, manufactured J-pop, K-pop process, okay? 2 minutes, okay, sure. So, okay, so I reject Han Byung-chul's interpretation of Deleuze and Guattari, but I think Bernard Stiegler comes to my rescue, because Stiegler understands Deleuze and Guattari's line of flight in a very interesting way. He says we have to understand it. The line of flight is a way to get rid of our addictions from technology and from media, okay? So the line of flight would be like having a pharmacological, therapeutic, curative kind of prescription, okay? And so it's not like, line of flight is not disconnection, okay? And it's not anti-politics. So in this way, I'm against a Japanese philosopher called Masaya Chiba. I'm against the stupid British philosopher Nick Land, and against a kind of very dangerous guy called Andrew Cope. I reject all these people, absolutely, okay? Nor is it like just being a Luddite, smashing things to pieces, okay? We have to have a therapeutic relation to technology, okay? This is what I think Han Byung-chul completely misses, okay? This is why we need to have a new commitment to Deleuze and Guattari, okay? And I think Han Byung-chul completely misunderstands the line of flight, okay? And because the line of flight, we can understand, we can use it to think about the hikikomori, the social recluse, okay? We can help to think about the line of flight as a way to form a relation with alterity, with the other as such, okay? So, now I get to my conclusion, is okay? So, what am I going to do, okay? Right. Anyway, so, again, so my conclusion, because I have to cut down, okay? I think I'm against Han Byung-chul, okay, because I think the line of flight, in fact, the rhizome, is a beautiful concept, okay? It's a concept of transition, it's a concept of explosion, of rupture, of pure becoming, okay? And I think this is where the experimentation comes in, okay? Because, okay, now I'll talk through this. So Stiegler says the line of flight, this is very much like something that if you want to call them algorithms or big data, this is what big data and the algorithms, they can't calculate what is the line of flight. The line of flight is incalculable, right? It is negentropic. It resists the entropy of data. It's a beautiful concept. That's why Stiegler is so important for us if we want to understand Deleuze and Guattari and we want to make a new concept to stop, to resist the way that, to stop the way that capitalism makes us like ensnared animals, ensnared wild animals which just reproduce the same, multitask for no apparent reason, okay? Right, I have more, I'll finish, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bueno, muchas gracias, Joff. Y ahora pasamos a nuestro compañero peruano, Jesús Ayala-Colqui. Si te puedes acercar al estrado. Jesús nos va a hablar de el desarrollo del concepto de agenciamiento en la obra de Guattari. mientras que el micrófono te acompañe si vas a estar sentado aquí, porque si no van a estar muy alejados. Vas a estar en una línea de fuga entre vos y
yo pongo esto porque si no mi universidad no me va a dar dinero.
La universidad no sabe quién sos, tu rostro no te permite reconocerte.
Muy bien, muy buenos días con todos. Muchas gracias por su asistencia y por su amabilidad. Bueno, el día de hoy hablaré no tanto sobre la obra de Deleuze, sino sobre Guattari. Me pareció muy interesante que en la exposición justamente anterior el colega hablara sobre el concepto de sociedad postmediática en Guattari. Creo que en estos 3 días se ha hablado mucho de Deleuze, pero casi nunca de Guattari. ¿Y por qué sería importante hablar de Guattari sin Deleuze? ¿No? En este caso, para plantear esto, hablaré del concepto de agenciamiento, que es un concepto muy citado por muchos autores. Hay muchos libros acerca del concepto de agenciamiento, muchas prácticas estéticas, políticas a partir de este concepto, pero casi siempre referentes Deleuze. Entonces, podríamos pensar, ¿realmente este concepto le pertenece solamente a Deleuze? ¿Qué ha hecho Guattari respecto al concepto de agenciamiento? Entonces, básicamente, sobre eso va lo que quiero hablar. Quiero plantear esa pregunta y tratar una suerte de un rastreo a través de la obra de Guattari, cómo este concepto va emergiendo, qué transformaciones tiene, y por último plantear en qué nos sirve cambiar la referencia del concepto de agenciamiento hacia Guattari, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, lo que pienso hacer es delimitar el terreno conceptual desde el cual emerge el término agenciamiento, y recorreré muy rápidamente, casi superficialmente por el tiempo, un par de libros de Guattari, en los cuales él solo, con o sin Deleuze, va a tematizar y desarrollar este concepto de agenciamiento. Muy bien, en su primer libro, ¿no?, que se publica en el 74, pero que tiene escritos de Guattari del 50 y del 60, o sea, mucho antes de conocer a Deleuze, la apuesta de Guattari era siempre la articulación entre el marxismo y el psicoanálisis. ¿Por qué? Esto no es simplemente que Guattari sea como Deleuze, un académico, sino que Félix era básicamente un militante en la Vogue, en tanto pues una experiencia en un lugar psicológico, psiquiátrico, y una militancia política en la universidad, en las fábricas, que pues en un día formaba un grupo, otro día lo desarmaba, etc. Entonces, en base a esa experiencia concreta, se da cuenta que se requiere, para el lado de la militancia marxista, introducir conceptos psicoanalíticos y viceversa, desde el lado de la práctica clínica, introducir conceptos políticos. Entonces, en base a ello, es que va desarrollando muchos escritos, un tanto dispersos, que luego agrupa en este libro, y una primera distinción que aparece en este libro, que es en varios textos, es la distinción entre grupo sometido y grupo sujeto, ¿no? ¿Qué significa esta distinción? Pues es una distinción tanto política como clínica, porque un grupo sometido sería, por ejemplo, un grupo militante en el cual hay una jerarquía vertical clásica, ¿no? Podemos pensar en un partido político tradicional, sea marxista o no, en el cual pues están ciertos militantes que son los profesionales y otras personas que pues tienen que seguir esa jerarquía, y además, desde el punto de vista del deseo, que es un deseo que se expresa en enunciados, pues se caracteriza por repetir, ¿no?, una repetición estereotipada de enunciados, y por lo tanto reciben una ley desde el exterior. En cambio, el grupo sujeto está estructurado no por una verticalidad, pero tampoco por una horizontalidad, sino por una transversalidad. Aquí Guattari crea un concepto que es el concepto de transversalidad, y en ese concepto lo que propone Guattari es que no se trata de que el grupo sea absolutamente anarquista o ácrata, ¿no? Porque a veces hay abordajes o acercamientos son excesivamente anarquistas, tanto en la obra de Deleuze como de Deleuze y Guattari, sino que es transversal, en el sentido de que no va a haber ni una verticalidad ni una horizontalidad, sino distintos puntos de conexiones en el cual desde distintas instancias se puedan crear nuevos enunciados y nuevas posturas del deseo. Entonces, eso es lo primero. Y la segunda cuestión que es muy importante, que Guattari señala que no es que nosotros somos los grupos sujetos y ustedes que no son deleuzianos o guattarianos son los grupos sometidos, sino que constantemente podemos estar cambiando, ¿no? Y esto creo que se ve en cualquier acto político, como un partido o un conjunto de personas que en algún momento tienen una práctica revolucionaria, poco a poco se van burocratizando, institucionalizando, al final, por ejemplo, llegan al poder, llegan a ser poder ejecutivo y hacen absolutamente todo lo contrario de lo que hacían cuando eran la militancia, ¿no? Entonces Guattari se da cuenta que eso sucede en Francia en su época, sucede con el Partido Comunista Francés, entonces él plantea de que hay una reversibilidad. O sea, constantemente estamos siendo o grupos sujetos o grupos sometidos, ¿no? Que en un día, que un momento fuimos un grupo sujeto, no nos garantiza que vamos a serlo para siempre y podemos devenir un grupo sometido. Muy bien, entonces luego de esto hay un término muy interesante que está recién en el 60-70, es que Guattari dice, bueno, por eso el grupo sujeto es un agente colectivo de enunciación. Entonces ahí ya el término suena mucho al posterior de los 70-80 de agenciamiento colectivo de enunciación. O sea, ese término ya está ahí. Y Guattari también en estos primeros textos habla del concepto de máquina, ¿no? Antes de que Deleuze hablara de la máquina con el antitipo, ya está en Guattari el concepto de máquina. Y está en su clásico artículo de Psicoanálisis de la Universalidad de Guattari, cómo la máquina es contrapuesto a la estructura, ¿no? Es un gesto que también Guattari utiliza para contraponerse al estructuralismo, porque la estructura, pues hay elementos relacionados donde el sujeto puede estar ahí, en cambio la máquina va a romper esa representación estructural dicotómica y ya no va a contener necesariamente a un sujeto, y en tal sentido la política revolucionaria para Guattari sería realizar una máquina de subversión institucional, ¿no? Y en cada etapa de lucha combatir esta estructuración, ¿no? Entonces aquí podemos plantear una pregunta: ¿de qué modo la máquina, así entendida inicialmente, deviene máquina deseante y de qué modo los grupos sujetos y los grupos sometidos se sitúan en esta dinámica maquínica? Para eso tendríamos que ver el siguiente libro, que es el Antedipo, pero antes podemos señalar que en estos escritos para el Antedipo, publicados en el 2004, que son el conjunto de cartas, documentos que Guattari le mandaba a Deleuze, y Deleuze pues lo reescribía, ¿no? Los asimilaba, y de eso sale el Antedipo, pues ahí lo que va a hacer Guattari es profundizarle el concepto de máquina, ¿no? Entonces el concepto de máquina va a ser aquel concepto que va a permitir conceptualizar el inconsciente. El inconsciente es una máquina que produce pues flujos, su producción es polívoca, molecular, transcursiva, y en el cual no hay un esquema predeterminado, como probablemente en el psicoanálisis lacaniano, ¿no? Que es que el inconsciente se estructuró como un lenguaje, los esquemas paternalistas, fálicos, etc., sino que para Guattari el inconsciente es creación, es un ámbito de creación, dimensión polívoca. Pues, y esa captura del deseo en los esquemas jerárquicos fálicos paternalistas no es un destino propio del inconsciente, sino que eso se explica por términos exclusivamente políticos. Si llegamos a desear de manera jerárquica, de manera paternalista o fálica, no es porque así sea el inconsciente, sino porque hay un modo de producción capitalista que hace que produzcamos nuestro flujo de deseo de esa manera, ¿no? Entonces esto luego se expresa evidentemente en el Antedipo, ¿no? El término máquina, que es un término que está sumamente presente ahí, ¿no? La máquina como aquello que opera cortes en los flujos de lo real, las tres síntesis muy conocidas, ¿no? La conectiva, la disyuntiva y la conjuntiva. Y lo que me interesa rescatar del Antedipo es cómo hay dos usos, ¿no? Dos usos de esta síntesis, uno ilegítimo o trascendente y otro legítimo o inmanente, y como tienen cada uno un correlato, ¿no? El uso ilegítimo, como sabemos, tiene el correlato paranoico-fascista, que es totalitario, exclusivo y unívoco, y el uso legítimo, un polo esquizo-revolucionario, que es un uso parcial, inclusive político de los flujos. Bueno, ¿qué es lo que quiero señalar aquí? Que hay una continuidad entre lo que dijo Guattari en el año 60 y lo que se publica en el año 72 con Deleuze. ¿Cuál es la continuidad que podemos destacar aquí? Que este concepto original de Guattari, que es grupo sujeto, se convierte luego en el Antedipo, por medio también de su concepto de máquina, en el concepto de polo esquizo-revolucionario y en el concepto de polo paranoico fascista. Entonces, este concepto está ya en Guattari desde los años 60 y en el 72 emerge ese modo. Y pues aquí hay que volver a recordar que también en este libro se enfatiza mucho en la cuestión de la reversibilidad, ¿no? O sea, podemos decirnos que somos muy revolucionarios desde el punto de vista preconsciente, pero inconscientemente podemos seguir siendo un policía interiormente, ¿no? Entonces, eso es una idea absolutamente guattariana, no deleuziana, que está en sus primeros textos. Muy bien, bueno, esto es una cita, ¿no?, para recordar que hay un reconocimiento de los originales conceptos de Guattari en el Antidipo, y vamos luego con el texto Kafka por una literatura menor. Aquí ya está muy claro el término agenciamiento, ¿no?, el término agenciamiento como parte de un continuo de expresión. ¿Y por qué Guattari con Deleuze utilizan el término continuo de expresión? Porque es un término que Guattari lo saca de Louis Hemsleb, quien pues tiene un enfoque distinto a la lingüística, ¿no?, a diferencia de Saussure, que era el significante-significado. En Hemsleb es el contenido de expresión, y en ese sentido las expresiones semióticas van más allá de lo verbal, sino también se puede pensar lo no verbal. Entonces Guattari, al partir de Hemsleb, está diciendo, bueno, el inconsciente no solamente se expresa en palabras, en significantes, como en Lacan, sino que también en temas no verbales, en cuestiones visuales, etc., ¿no? Entonces, por eso el agenciamiento, que vendría pues a hacer este concepto que permite pensar el deseo, sería, de este modo, tendría un contenido, una expresión, ¿no? Sería tanto un agenciamiento maquínico de deseo como un agenciamiento colectivo de enunciación. Bueno, entonces está ello. También el agenciamiento se habla que tiene otro eje, ¿no?, que también es muy conocido, el de reterritorialización, desterritorialización, ¿no?, que creo que estos son conceptos muy conocidos. Y Guattari pues señala que el concepto de agenciamiento, ¿no?, puede devenir desterritorializado con ciertas líneas de fuga. Y la pregunta sería aquí, ¿cómo estos conceptos de contenido, expresión, desterritorialización, reterritorialización conectan con los originales conceptos de Guattari? Y bueno, habría que esperar un poco para señalar lo que les quiero mencionar, para darnos un vistazo muy rápido por el posterior libro que publica Guattari en el 77, que nuevamente es un libro con muchos de sus artículos reunidos, ¿no? Y ahí lo que hace Guattari es contraponer los conceptos, el concepto de agenciamiento con el concepto de equipamiento. ¿Qué es el equipamiento? Es muy parecido al agenciamiento. Si el agenciamiento pues, tenía contenido, expresión, elementos heterogéneos, polívocos, en el equipamiento también está ello, pero la diferencia es que esa multiplicidad es funcional a las formas de valorización del capitalismo, ¿no? Y lo interesante de aquí es que el equipamiento es algo que es la manera como opera el capitalismo, ¿no? O sea, el capitalismo lo que hace es, a juicio de Guattari, insertarnos maneras de desear en las cuales pues, están todos esos esquemas jerárquicos, verticales, etc. Entonces, la tarea política sería pues, tratar de sobrepasar estos equipamientos construyendo agenciamientos, ¿no? Entonces, un agenciamiento tendría que pues, sacarnos de esos tópicos preestablecidos que nos han dado los equipamientos capitalistas, ¿no? Y de qué modo construyendo sus propios medios de expresión y arriesgando experimentaciones en lo real. Bueno, entonces, ¿cómo conectamos todo ello? De la siguiente manera. Bueno, acá señalo antes de que también en su otro libro, que sale antes de 1000 mesetas, que es Líneas de fuga, vuelve Guattari a plantear la contraposición entre equipamiento y agenciamiento, y de hecho el concepto de rizoma, que mucho se le imputa a Deleuze, de hecho aparece aquí, incluso aparece en psicoanálisis y transversalidad. Incluso podemos decir que como una suerte prehistoria el concepto de rizoma es el concepto de transversalidad, porque básicamente es lo mismo, ¿no? Es conectar de manera ni vertical ni horizontal distintos elementos heterogéneos, ¿no? Entonces, lo que queremos señalar aquí es lo siguiente, ¿no? Si en psicoanálisis y transversalidad era grupo sujeto, grupo sujetado, en el Antidipo es polo esquizo revolucionario, polo paranoico fascista, en la revolución molecular y líneas de fuga es el agenciamiento y el equipamiento. Entonces, Guattari mismo lo reconoce, dice, bueno, con las opciones de equipamiento y agenciamiento, reencontramos la alternativa de grupo sujeto y grupo sujetado. Y por último, para ya concluir, el concepto de agenciamiento, bueno, sabemos que ocupa un lugar muy importante en 1000 mesetas. Nuevamente aquí está pues, el contenido, la expresión, desterritorialización, reterritorialización, etc. Pero recordemos que en 1000 mesetas también hay más contraposiciones, ¿no? Lo estriado, lo liso, lo sedentario, lo nómada, que esto sí creo que es muy imputable a Deleuze, ¿no? En diferencia de repetición está muy claro, ¿no? El término nomádico. Aparato de Estado, máquina de guerra, y me gustaría en este caso solo enfatizar en el último, ¿no? La axiomática capitalista y la minoría, que nuevamente no se trata de oposiciones esencialistas, ¿no? No es que uno sea lo bueno, uno sea lo malo, no es que lo molar sea lo malo y lo molecular sea lo bueno, sino de que simplemente son maneras de realizar el deseo, y lo que importa, acá señalan, es la especificidad de la organización numérica. ¿Qué significa eso? Pues significa, pues, si la axiomática capitalista captura todos los flujos, la minoría no es ser menos, ¿no? La minoría es de que, bueno, yo soy 5, soy 2 o soy 1 versus los 5.000 que son capitalistas, sino simplemente que devenir en un sentido no numerable, no cuantificable por la axiomática del capital, y eso también significa, pues, enfatizar en las conjunciones, y ese concepto de conjunciones evidentemente lo retrotraemos a este original concepto de grupo sujeto, en el cual las producciones discursivas se abren en su multiplicidad, ¿no? Entonces, para cerrar como este círculo hasta 1000 mesetas, podemos señalar que los conceptos van evolucionando así, en cierta manera, y pues minoría y axiomática capitalista. Yo para esta presentación me he quedado en 1000 mesetas, pero si vamos a los textos posteriores de Guattari, están otros conceptos, ¿no? Por ejemplo, la heterogénesis contra la homogénesis, ¿no? O sea, una producción divergente del deseo vendría a ser como el grupo sujeto, o la resingularización, también habla Guattari en las tres ecologías, o en osmosis, habla también de estos conceptos, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué es lo que obtenemos? Pues a modo de recapitulación, que de ninguna manera la obra de Guattari y Deleuze puede ser imputable solamente al último, ¿no? Creo que se necesita más discusiones con la obra de Guattari, que él es, a fin de cuentas, quien introduce el tema del deseo, quien introduce el tema de la politización del inconsciente, quien introduce la crítica explícita del capitalismo y la reversibilidad de la acción política. Asimismo, pues evidentemente la obra de Guattari no es ni de menor valía que la de Deleuze, ni mucho menos desordenada, dispersa, errática, como muchas veces se piensa. Pensamos que Guattari, bueno, era un sujeto que escribía, desescribía y nada más, pero en realidad la obra de Guattari es muy coherente. Por más que podamos ver demasiados artículos dispersos, muchos conceptos que genera Guattari, en realidad hay mucha coherencia, porque la tesis es la misma, ¿no? Que el deseo es político, y que el deseo puede ser o bien como grupo sujetado o como grupo sujeto, ¿no? Entonces, la pregunta para finalizar es, ¿qué ganaríamos al atribuir el concepto de agenciamiento a Guattari? Pues quizás un par de cosas, ¿no? Quizás sustituir la minoría cuantitativa atribuida a Guattari, que es un autor menor, en un sentido tradicional, por una minoría conceptual, en el sentido de que más allá de Deleuze, aún sin Deleuze, ¿no? Que su obra tiene una potencia política singular muy importante, a la que habría que prestarle algo de atención, y activar otras líneas de fuga que partan de Guattari. ¿Y qué significa estas líneas de fuga que parten de Guattari, a mi juicio? Pues enfatizar la vertiente anticapitalista que a veces se pierde en muchos estudios deleuzianos, ¿no? Pareciera que la crítica al capitalismo es solamente una jerga superficial, pero no hay una concretización explícita de ello, y eso creo que se puede ver si retomamos el diálogo constante de Guattari con Marx, ¿no? En el fondo, no solamente porque lo cite o no, sino que de hecho Guattari retoma muchos conceptos que eran muy problemáticos o muy sensibles en la obra de Marx, ¿no? Por ejemplo, aquí ya no tengo tiempo para hablar de ello, pero por ejemplo la baja tendencial de la tasa de ganancia, que es en el antidipo, pues es algo que Guattari primero plantea, ¿no? De qué manera realmente existe la baja tendencial de la tasa de ganancia, pero qué pasa ahora con las máquinas, ¿no? Si las máquinas también producen valor, entonces ahí Guattari crea conceptos como plusvalor maquínico, como valor de deseo, que son conceptos muy heterodoxos para el marxismo tradicional, pero en el fondo siguen esa línea marxista, ¿no? Entonces por eso coloco ahí quizás el término marxiano, por si el término marxista hace un poco de ruido. Y ¿qué más nos aportaría Guattari a enfatizar que el concepto de agenciamiento es guattariano? Que para Guattari es importante también la macropolítica, ¿no? Siempre a veces se hace mucho énfasis en la micropolítica, lo menor, lo molecular, pero en el fondo Guattari siempre señala, e incluso está textualmente en 1000 mesetas varias veces, que lo molecular no sería nada si no vuelve a pasar por lo molar. Entonces creo que eso es muy importante, porque a veces muchas militancias políticas siempre las planteamos frontalmente o nos distanciamos mucho del Estado o de las representaciones políticas, pero también pueden resultar estériles nuestras prácticas militantes si no tenemos estrategias mucho más globales de cambiar nuestras relaciones políticas, y solo de esa manera pues poder realmente plantear una crítica al capital, porque si no, si lo hacemos simplemente en ciertas islas, pues el capitalismo sigue existiendo y al final pues nuestra práctica no tiene ningún propósito concreto, ¿no? Entonces, solamente de este modo, y creo que a modo de recapitulación puedo colocar esta cita de Deleuze que dice pues, que Guattari es un filósofo extraordinario, en primer lugar y sobre todo cuando hable de política, y quizás también habría que pues, pensarlo como filósofo y ver su obra ya no subordinada a este significante que es muy falaz, ¿no? Cuando se habla de Deleuze Guattari, en el fondo es solo Deleuze, de Guattari no hay nada. Entonces habría que volver a repensarlo y quizás esto un poco a modo de provocación. Entonces eso sería todo. Muchas gracias, estimados colegas. Gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Jesús. Bueno, vamos entonces a darle la palabra a quien va a cerrar. Sabrina. ¿No vas a pasar? ¿Vas a hablar desde allí?
¿Cómo?
¿Vas a venir? Ven. Ven. Sabrina, que no me acuerdo tu apellido, te pido mil disculpas, pero acá lo tengo anotado. Sabrina Andrade, que viene desde el Brasil, más puntualmente de la Pontificia Universidad Católica de Sao Paulo, y nos va a hablar de modos de existencia y otras solidaridades, ¿correcto? Bueno, muchas gracias, Sabrina.
¿Tú ibas a hablar ahora?
No, yo hablé ayer para reacomodar un poco la agenda con algunas caídas. Y
No
algunas
te escuché.
que tú cierres.
Sí, está bien, muchas gracias. Buenas tardes, muchas gracias, incluso por la oportunidad de cerrar ese evento desde el sur de Latinoamérica. Bien, me gustaría agradecer la oportunidad de estar con todos ustedes por estos días, en ese retorno al presencial, ¿no? Que es tan más caloroso y vivo que las pantallas. Bien, pero ahora aquí una pantalla que voy a leer mi presentación porque soy un poco prolixa, no puedo hacer una charla sin un poco de rigor. Y yo estoy aquí hablando un portuñol, ¿cierto? Quero agradecer meu amigo Damian Kraus, que hice a revisão final deste texto para ter um espanhol assim também, não? Mais inteligível para todos. Bien, los sentidos son invenciones que se ramifican por el tejido social y puede transformarse mediante la modulación de los deseos que a su vez guían nuestras acciones. Esta cuestión ya tan recurrente de la producción deseante se vuelve aún más urgente cuando nos percatamos al respecto de la fuerza de las formas de vida que sirven tan voluntariamente a la cristalización de los dispositivos de captura durante los últimos ciclos. Incluso agora, com o novo cenário de crise mundial atribuído à pandemia do coronavírus, seguimos viéndonos com viejos problemas e algumas particularidades se agravam aún mais aqui com o panorama político latino-americano. Los gobiernos brutales, ahora neoliberalizados, não só querem deixar amortecida ou liquidar nossa capacidade de sermos afectados por las fuerzas del mundo, fuerzas cuyos efeitos surgiriam novos significados, pretendem decidir alucinadamente sobre os resultados que certas substâncias podem ou não podem ter em organismo convalescente. Tras anos atentos a los peligros de los enunciados científicos como produtores de verdades dominantes, a menudo em benefício da indústria farmacêutica, atualmente experimentamos uma problemática aún mais extravagante, la de las possibilidades políticas de banalização de los saberes científicos e filosóficos con el aval de líderes ignorantes totalmente vendidos a las industrias de la vida y de la muerte. Al cabo, se trata de nosotros, los colonizados, los asesinados, los expoliados. Em Brasil, território onde, através de esses falaces relatos, se configurou o epicentro da pandemia, atualmente se suma a acuciante problema da hambre. Volvimos à década de 90 bajo a gestão de governo declaradamente fascista. Os peligros de la sumisión a la transcendência nunca haviam estado tão presentes, burbujeam hasta la superfície de la realidade. Imaginar um modelo del futuro como quem pospone hasta el próximo ciclo la resolução de nossos impasses pouco aporta ante nosso atual panorama planetário. Por mais agônica que seja nossa realidade e nossas lutas privadas e coletivas, através de elas podemos percatarmos de la parte a la que pertenecemos em la linha del tiempo cosmogônica, para escuchar os embriones de futuro que anidam em nossos corpos a la espera de nossas ações por germinar. Pero, quem somos nosotros, los que estamos aqui em tempo em que não sucede o que deveria suceder, frente a estes governos e a este tempo histórico que nos atravessam? Uma certa transversalidade nos mostra que distinguir entre os problemas individuais e os coletivos seria uma gran patranha, verdadeiro señuelo para alejarmos de nossos problemas atuais. De hambrientos a vorazes consumidores de nossos modos de vida predeterminados, não parecemos satisfeitos e, aún viendo el derrumbe de tipo de vida que habita no planeta, incluída a vida de nossa espécie, quedamos inibidos em lo que concierne el pleno uso de nossas forças. Assim e tudo, al respeito de isso, tenho uma hipótese. El inibido é, ante todo, um afectado. A inibição pode hacernos isso, que demos vueltas, crea labirintos sem razão, nos leva a buscar entretenimentos pouco nutritivos. A inibição trabalha para a repressão inconsciente. Por lo tanto, não é prudente culpá-la, já que isso aumentaria seu poder de captura do desejo. Tampouco há que creer que su contrário, uma desinibição, é a solução do problema que aqui os meu. Aunque não lo parezca, a inibição habla. Porém, é possível afrontar sua fria existência. Que dirige la ausência, la falta de destreza, el miedo, que não correspondem ao desejo que pulsa, que pide passo, suda e se excede apressuradamente em suas fugas. Repito, el inibido é, ante todo, um afectado. Su cuerpo vibra tanto que é como se fuera a fricção de la ressonância en el cuerpo de uma campanha grande e pesada. Aparentemente, a pessoa inibida sente as vibrações do mundo que la rodeia de maneira distinta que a apática. Siente muito, siente tanto estas vibrações sem forma que não sabe por onde começar a trabalhar com elas. Desbargado a la hora de transformar o pensamento em ação, sigue errante com seu corpo ressonando en el caos, como el esquizo, personagem conceitual vecino al que rendimos honor. Por lo tanto, há muita força em la inibição, pero em um movimento disperso, aparentemente silencioso em sua trajetória caosmótica. Através de que força se pode produzir um corte no caos que favoreça a criação de novos modos de existência? Mediante que dispositivo escucharemos e daremos movimento a lo que não parece ter força de nascimento? Estaria a resposta a ello em uma vida como uma obra de arte, tal como nos sugere Foucault? A su vez, isso é demasiado exigente para nossa humilde submissão contemporânea. Uma debilidade difícil de entender em tempos em que existimos em exposição. Ou é também um requisito que permanece em abstrato e, por ende, que é impossível assumir. Al não explicar como opera este movimento de transfiguração na subjetividade, como se levará a cabo este exercício? Guattari, quizá, nos ajuda melhor a dar-lhes respostas a essas perguntas quando nos oferece sua orquestração cartográfica, sua maneira tão singular de perceber a vida por um canal ético, estético e político. Por isso pergunto, como estar à altura de uma vida ecosófica? Cometi um acto falido de escritura antes, quando denominei submissão à la inibição, que é o tema desse bosquejo. Probemos aqui, então, com esse acto falido como acto descolonizador do pensamento. Um lapso aporta suas forças em formas que não lhe agradam a um sujeito que é obediente a uma norma. Fuerza o movimento de la vida a reconstruir sua insistente produção deseante em novas formações de um corpo ou de corpos transversales. Miren ustedes, nossa economia psíquica é fiel. Pero fiel a quê? Pues aí, onde a inibição se encontra com a submissão, é donde atua nosso já conhecido e temeroso eu mesmo, envuelto em seus mecanismos de conservação e permanência de las formas vigentes de si mesmo e del mundo. Se hace justiça a nossa economia psíquica através do governo de um eu sujeito. Em outras palavras, se hace justiça ao mais alto grado de refinamento da arquitetura anímica da vida e de sua perpetuação em nossos corpos? En el esfuerzo por manter formas permanentes, ¿dónde vão nossas forças cósmicas depois de tudo? Me refiro aqui a las fuerzas pulsionales, aquelas em que seu destino ético produzem a eterna repetição de la diferença. ¿Recuerdan el cuerpo de la campaña grande y pesado haciendo sonar la densa vibración del caos? Es casi imposible contenerlo en el apogeo de su fuerza, pues al detenérsela, la fuerza colapsa. Ahora piensen en un estancamiento de fuerzas en un campo global. Estou buscando aqui uma forma de pensar sobre os efeitos de uma inibição coletiva, tomando a la inibição como uma produção de desejo capturado em aquello que este pode inferir de novidade en el campo social e político. E isso é o que, de alguma maneira, nos está passando. Al menos em Brasil, é o que está passando. Não tivemos, desde o último governo, greves, grandes manifestações, nada. Bem, para finalizar, volvamos a las antiguas perguntas de como e por que amamos os signos que cerceiam nossos pasajes. La revuelta se ha convertido em um peligro para a vida e não se la vive como um exercício pleno e autopoético de la vivência em si mesma. Uma revuelta que, como uma crise, é seguida por outra em suas relações de fim e novo começo, muerte e vida, diferenciação de forças e formas. Sin exercer la rebeldia, seguiremos vivendo processos sem percatar-nos de ellos, inibidos, participando nesse mundo como zombies, dispersos al respecto de las vibraciones de las fuerzas que afetam a nuestros cuerpos e del pulso que emanamos a nuestro alrededor. Nos encontramos, então, frente a um problema clínico, razão por la qual sigue sendo importante não arrojar la inibição e la submissão à la basura. Se constituem lo que temos agora, é necessário distinguir, dirigir o foco de nossa atenção hacia ellas, sem las quales não saberemos em que nos hemos convertido efetivamente agora, para actuar sometidos a uma civilização consumista onipotente, independentemente de nossa situação socioeconômica, nosso credo, nosso color de piel e nossa nacionalidade. Em servidumbre a um modo de subjetivação que, como nos decía Félix Guattari, já se ha empoderado de todo o planeta e que nos define no antropoceno. Sem aguçar esta percepção, vivimos o desejo em sua mínima potência e perdemos o que é mais precioso em sua generação ou sua germinação. Sua potência vital, sua força pulsional, pré-individual, matéria de la que se constitui um corpo sem órgãos coletivo, nosso tecido mais singular em la criação de realidades. Quando o desejo pierde sua força revolucionária, al agenciar-se a formas brutais de existência, é prudente que os sentidos anestesiados que deram passo a esta modulação sufram num processo que denominamos transducção, é dizer, que difiram seus códigos, que puedan componer novas alianças de existência. E, nesse lugar, a clínica, como conduta ética e ritual del cuidado, opera sua força política, já que nunca está separada das formações sociais del desejo, seu campo de ação micropolítica. O encontro clínico deve funcionar para que se produza um desvio de los afectos que nos levam a ver a vida como um produto terminado por força de desgastados pero funcionais condicionamentos. O ressentimento, a culpa por não lograr os resultados anelados e a competitividade são partes fundamentais de los engrenajes del derrumbe que presenciamos de forma aislada, pero a la vista de todos. Ojos petrificados, capturados por pantallas que muitas vezes não captam as formações e as estratégias políticas que inibem nossas percepções de muerte e vida e quebrantam as forças que dignificam nossa existência e nosso porvenir. Não negar o que nos sucede, estar disponíveis para sermos afetados por la história que terremos, renunciar a algumas individualidades conquistadas e a uma falsa ideia de progresso que ameaça a la vida de muitas espécies em la Tierra, é uma tarefa vital para quienes querem cuidar de los gérmenes del futuro que se animam em seus corpos, es decir, implicar-nos com o presente. Dado que o inibido é um afectado mais que um mortificado, e al erigir-se como a composição de muitas forças que não encontram salida, reciprocidade, coletividade, exercício de la alteridade, como desenhar uma estratégia para que estas forças, lá de nossa inibição coletiva, produzam outros contágios? Como produzir diferença em nossos encontros que atravessem o complicado muro das relações neoliberais? A ideia que he estado tentando desarrollar é a de outro tipo de solidariedade. Não uma solidariedade do campo da filantropia, da representação, da alta adulação, que não solucionaria os problemas aqui planteados, sino uma solidariedade que desobedeça el campo visível e invisível a toda norma e a toda violência vigente de la que somos agentes, condutores e sofredores simultaneamente. Uma solidariedade que se configura em corpos desobedientes decompone lo que parece naturalizado en la produção de nuestros afectos e nuestros valores en la contemporaneidade. Moleculariza contratiços com a relação a uma suposta forma de conduta influyente para que, quizás, por uma inclinação errática, puedan descobrir-se novos matizes del existir e del estar juntos. E, por que não, quizás, se puedan adjudicar novos significados a nossas existências, com novas possibilidades de experimentar nossos corpos, a diferença do que lo que denominamos el empreendedor de si mesmo. Nódulo duro de los processos de produção de subjetividades de nosso tempo, em onde atuamos solamente para acumular capital econômico e inseparablemente narcisista, inibindo em nós mesmos e em nosso entorno outras formas de viver. Se, como nos señala Deleuze, a maioria é nadie e a minoria somos todos nós outros, a consecução de uma estabilidade emocional e financeira constitui uma falsa ideia que se nos vende a um alto preço, o endurecimento de nossos corpos e afectos e no abuso de nossas forças vitais. Graças. Por isso é necessário inventar formas de sostener o que há em las relações mais allá de los pactos de interesses tão comuns entre muitos de nós outros. Esta possível sustentação contribui a outra escuta que nos permite ser afetados por lo que sucede desde nossas zonas de estrangeiridade, para que eventualmente podamos descobrir o que não sabemos sobre nós outros mesmos, nossos corpos e nossos afectos, e que, partindo de aí, podamos, quizás, inventar outras formas de existir. Não sou filósofa e não tenho memória. Apesar de todo isso, escuto. Escuto com um instrumento filosofante não codificado. Este instrumento é o corpo enato. Não quero romantizar a clínica, pero como nos ensina Guattari, com seu denominado esquizoanálisis, o que anhelo é desfrutar as condições que ela nos oferece para viver a heterogênese que nos atraviessa de maneira radicalmente crítica ante as políticas de muerte que nos espantam. Uma cita para encerrar. Deshacer el organismo nunca ha sido matar-se, sino abrir el cuerpo a conexiones que suponem todo um agenciamento, circuito, conjunções, níveis e umbrales, passajes e distribuições de intensidade, territórios e desterritorializações medidas à la maneira de um agrimensor. Em última instância, deshacer el organismo não é mais difícil que deshacer os outros estratos significância ou subjetivação. Muitas gracias. Gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Sabrina. Ahora tenemos unos minutos para preguntas, inquietudes, comentarios. Ah, sí, eso, bien. Si pasan adelante, you can come ahead, the speakers. So. Nos falta una silla para ese proyecto tan ambicioso. No tenemos sillas para todos. Tenemos 4 sillas, 3 sillas y 4 expositores.
My friend took this photograph.
Yo no voy a ceder por motivos obvios.
We are bringing the extra chair we need. Perfecto. Organización impecable. Hay que sacar la timidez inicial.
Bueno, solo para que se tome su tiempo para hacer las preguntas que tienen en mente. Jesús, perdón, me cansé de traer la silla. Bueno, voy a responder a tu provocación con otra provocación. ¿Qué metodología utilizaste para leer este desarrollo lineal del concepto de agenciamiento? Te lo pregunto porque me parece una desterritorialización demasiado abrupta decir que el concepto de agenciamiento pertenece a Guattari. Y en ese sentido me parece que hay algo así como un virus del precursor, como diría George Canguilhem. Entonces, ¿por qué lo digo? Porque se ha investigado los últimos 20 años bastante a propósito de cuál es la utilidad, cuál es la génesis del concepto, sobre la relación del concepto de agenciamiento con el concepto de dispositivo. Entonces, me parece que pensar que el concepto estuvo incoado en la obra de Guattari no es capaz de leer todos los zigzags históricos. Entonces, no hay una genealogía del concepto. ¿Qué es lo que hay? ¿Una historia de las ideas? Eso.
¿Quieres aportar sobre el mismo tema? Bueno, entonces vamos ahora paso a paso.
Gracias. Sí, claro, creo que tu pregunta es absolutamente pertinente y más aún de que pues yo también he trabajado Foucault y sin duda pues esa manera de leer, ¿no? Donde ya un concepto se encuentra ya, o sea, hay una teleología en el fondo, ¿no? Es una lectura teleológica en el cual todos estos conceptos se desarrollan según una linealidad pura y que llega hasta su máxima realización, ¿no? Un esquema teleológico máximo hegeliano, ¿no? En el cual existe toda una realización. Pero, ¿por qué sería pertinente una lectura así? Yo creo que, en primer lugar, este tipo de lectura no excluiría las otras, ¿no? Yo creo que quizás sería como una línea más que se podría sumar a las otras lecturas que podrían ser no necesariamente tan cronológicas, tan lineales, tan secuenciales, sino que dentro de esa linealidad podríamos sumar unas contralinealidades, más simultaneidades, etc. Y sin duda, ¿no? Como tú señalas, hay otras clases de lecturas, por ejemplo, la de la contraposición o la analogía entre el agenciamiento y el dispositivo. Ahí quizás habría que señalar que esas lecturas, yo discrepo profundamente de ellas, porque no es el concepto de agenciamiento el que es el equivalente al dispositivo Foucaultiano, sino en realidad es el concepto de equipamiento, porque tanto el dispositivo como el equipamiento son formas de realización del poder. En el caso de Foucault, no son red de elementos heterogéneos, discursivos y no discursivos, que van a pues, determinar las relaciones de poder de una u otra manera. En el caso de Guattari, en este caso ya no es Deleuze, el equipamiento es exactamente lo mismo. Es un elemento, es una red de elementos heterogéneos, solo que en vez de lo discursivo y lo no discursivo, vendría a estar lo inconsciente y lo polívoco y heterogéneo, ¿no? Entonces, podríamos preguntar finalmente si la lectura que hice de Guattari es una lectura guattariana. Probablemente en cierto momento sí y en cierto momento no, pero ¿cuál es en todo caso la funcionalidad de ello? Pues es quizás simplemente en este momento, ¿no? enfatizar esa línea y justamente que esta línea provoque resonancias, ¿no? Entonces, de entrada, me gusta mucho esa objeción, ¿no? Esa objeción creo que está muy bien. Y esa era la idea, ¿no? También tratar de problematizarlo, problematizar de qué manera lecturas lineales o no pueden, en cierta manera, pues, lograr otras resonancias. Y en todo caso, si resulta muy, pero muy tajante, muy categórico, ¿no? Señalar que este concepto es exclusivo de él, pero si hacemos como una suerte de hipótesis, ¿no? Como una ficción, ¿no? Supongamos que lo que he dicho es fictivo, ¿no? ¿Qué haríamos con esa ficción, ¿no? Si esa linealidad fuera así, ¿no? Entonces quizás por ahí va lo que trato de intentar, ¿no? Si ficcionalizáramos de que en efecto es de él, ¿qué consecuencias obtendríamos? ¿No? Creo que porque a fin de cuentas también es una lectura muy Foucaultiana, ¿no? Porque cuando Foucault habla, ¿qué es el autor? ¿No? El autor, dice Foucault, es básicamente un concepto para reprimir la libre manipulación de los acontecimientos discursivos, ¿no? Entonces, yo he manipulado el acontecimiento discursivo de Guattari en una cierta linealidad, pero que a fin de buscar ciertos efectos. Entonces, básicamente esa sería mi respuesta o mi no respuesta. Gracias, Patricio.
Una pregunta aquí.
Bueno, muchas gracias a los cuatro en la mesa. Thank you very much. To Big Lake, you have said that nationality is the real border. It does mean that when you travel from your country to another country, this nationality, this border, acquires a certain flexibility. And what happens in that case? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for a good question. All right. So in my argument is that solid foundation is definitely nation state is a byproduct of capitalism and then modernization, whatever called. So that is actually my theory. When I actually theorized or some discussed, the function of a nation state in the capitalism. So, but actually, Kant didn't, developed this idea. But of course, he actually touched, many aspects of nation state. That means that he actually presupposed or proposed that cosmopolitanism would come out, on the condition actually, all the state must be a republic. That means a people's country. What kind of this people's country? I think that this concept could be applied for communism and capitalism, in both sense. What I mean, that means actually beyond that kind of mode of production. The capitalism is, as you know, this kind of mode of production. So this is, in my opinion, the delirium of capitalism. What I mean, capitalism must open to that kind of delirium. If they want to exchange a commodity, they want to actually produce kind of profit, make profit, they must open this how can I enclose the boundary of a nation state. But nation state is necessary for primitive accumulation. Why? You must mobilize workers. Otherwise, the individual, actually, for instance, the modern society or modern state, whatever called, and then this actually modern society, nobody can control them. Even Thomas Hobbes argued that, without any, the fear of without any fear of death. That means actually the infinite, competition, something like that, to kill each other. The is the state of the barbarism, something like that. Is the Hobbes argue that the state needs to settle down this kind of violence, the individual violence. So. And he called it this commonwealth. That means that this commonwealth is necessary for that kind of primitive accumulation. And how could it be possible? It's a nation state. It's Balibar said a nation form. That is, in my opinion, the reason why we should actually understand nation state as a kind of foundation of capitalism. And then, but already Kant said the human condition or humanity. Which actually, the influenced by or some brought up by enlightenment, presuppose that equal, the right of human being, that we are equal. Even though actually this kind of enclosed, the form of a nation cannot stop this one. So in my opinion, right to travel is very important, in my opinion. So even they said the refugee or something like that, but the people, the modern state, the nation state, the term refugee, does not mean like bad, people. It does not mean actually. It doesn't have any bad sense. Refugee means free man. The Victor de Vigo. The Edward Said quoted. The strong man. Free man is a perfect man. That means actually refugee. But actually, once nation state came in, refugee turned to be a bad meaning. Why? This is what I'm saying. So to right to travel is important, and then even global capitalism in this sense, to some point, crisis of classical sense of capitalism. That's what I'm saying. So this is a crisis. As you said, why is it flexible? That means it's a crisis. Always capitalism presupposes a crisis, and then this crisis is always also restored by such a nation form. That's what I'm saying. So the nationalism is, in my opinion, a big problem at the moment, and we must solve out this. And then we observing, witnessing what happened. This kind of nationalism came back, in the crisis of global capitalism, something like that.
Gracias, Julián. My question is for Job. In the context of the philosophy of Stigler, could you develop a little more about the relationship between technological individuation and psycho-collective individuation, and the central place that you remind us that the line of flight has? Perhaps you have some examples of neganthropic bifurcations in terms of public politic, I don't know, on technology, or more micropolitic gestures along these lines?
Big questions. Well, this young gentleman here, what's your name? Yeah. Maybe I can. I wanted to say something to you yesterday. I think it connects. So, about the line of flight, I didn't really finish it. What I wanted to say. Stigler says that the current mode of our technical objects, the exosomatic organs, what Dan Smith was talking about yesterday, they're in an entropic mode, okay? Which means to say that we have information, right? Lots and lots of information, but we have a losing of the savoirs, of knowledge, okay? Now, Stigler was before his death, he was arguing that we have to find almost like in Deleuze's, like a singularity almost, something like this. Something like the event. Something which, almost like the dark precursor that comes without warning. Suddenly it just appears, right? Now, Stigler was arguing about the kind of entropic form of calculation, what big data and algorithms, blah, 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 these things are doing. Now, he argued that language as such, in fact, poetic language as such, is something which maybe is not it's not resistance. He would say he doesn't like this word resistance. He said language is a tool of creation, because his example would be something from Nerval, would be like a black sun. The black sun. Imagine what a black sun is. Now, his example was that poetic language is somehow it's the out of calculation will be this line of flight, which would be impossible to imagine by big data technologies and things like this. This would be what he calls neganthropic. This would be a creative act. And he gets this from Nietzsche, actually. And Nietzsche, somewhere in his late works, talks about the eternal return of the same as a thought which comes out of nowhere and has a kind of resistance to the the closing down of knowledge or information, things like this. So eternal return would be like somehow like a line of flight. It would be something which escapes. Now, to get to your question quickly, I don't want to bore everybody, but Stiegler talked about the open system. I'm a big, this is my research on what is the open, you see, and I get this from Kostas Axelos, okay, the fantastic, fantastic Greek philosopher, Kostas Axelos, and his thought of the system of the open thought. Now, Stiegler says in his late work that all systems of information are open, and this is our possibility. Because when systems of information are closed, that means we have no line of flight. We have no negantropic possibility. But he says, this is why he is a kind of utopian thinker, really. Because he says the open system is where the possibility of the incalculable, the negantropic bifurcation, this language, blah, 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 this is our possibility. This is our possibility to build new kinds of technologies, yeah, which are therapeutic, or pharmacological, curative, which guide us on a journey of knowledge. It's a beautiful idea. Using knowledge to, for our students, for example, take them on a journey of knowledge. Because at the moment, we just give them information. Go and look on Google or Wikipedia, blah, blah, blah. And they don't think. There's the devastation of thinking, the end of the savoirs, he says, the end of philosophical thinking. So coming back to your point about your concern about philosophy yesterday, well, philosophy is bifurcatory, it's negantropic. It is a line of flight. It is a possibility of creating a new world. And that's why Guattari is so fantastic. Guattari is the great thinker of the future. This we can make a new revolution. Thank you.
Bueno, si no hay más preguntas, voy a preguntar yo. Si me permiten, ¿no hay más preguntas? Ah, perdón. Estabas tapado por la columna.
Thank you about the concept of hikikomori, because I have a son of 13 years, and I have a war against iPhone, you know, because I used iPhone just 2 years ago, but my son is growing with the iPhone or the cell phone or this machine, and I say to him, I have another ways to make experience, and you are becoming an hikikomori. You are becoming, now I have a word, to punish him, to be a repression, to make improve a device of repression to his body, because I'm the parent and I have to punish him. Thank you very much.
You mentioned yesterday also how you are versed, at least to some extent, in Japanese and Buddhist thought, and I'm curious how then Stiegler's adoption of the line of flight would actually relate to a Buddhist conception of because I see the same problem arising in language to begin with, right? Especially, actually, I'm really appreciative of your tension between Deleuze and Guattari, and how you side with Guattari, because I really saw, I mean, this was discussed variously, but Deleuze kind of shuts down Guattari largely a lot of the time. And it seemed to me because of his, how do I say, devotion to the concept, or yeah.
Ok, pregunto yo también, así ya cerramos, ¿te parece? ¿Les parece? Okay, Shof, first of all, I loved your paper. I loved it because I share your hatred. So it's very nice to love. Spinoza wouldn't like it, but I'm on it. Yes, we hate the same people. It's very nice. So and you hate so strongly. That's make me so good. Yeah, with such love. Yeah, love. yes, made me so well. Okay, but and I like that you choose the concept of line of flight to defend Deleuze when this is the concept they use usually to attack him. I like this, the very same. You didn't go to another concept. You said, I will defend him. But I have two questions. The first one, you have answered. I was thinking he's answering my question because I was wanting to ask you. You said you are not a ludist, but there was something ludid in your speech. But then you say this Guattari open system. I love the open system. Costas Axelos, I have problems loving him because he was so mean with Deleuze, but with and then Jose talks about cell phones, and there is something in your theory that is a little ludid because we have to understand if cell phones have something positive. If there's only this going inside for kids with the phones, because in the pandemic I saw I have a young 11-year-old kid, and this phone I gave him a phone, and he was able to connect with his friends, and he was making a nice use of the phone, better than TV. I don't know. So maybe also we not to be ludist. We should that we are old and we see the kids with the phones and we hate this, the way they look at the gadget. But one more. Oh, go ahead. I get you.
Right, thanks. Yeah, okay. So about the Buddhist point of view, so recently Han Byung-chul, the Korean philosopher I mentioned, has somehow talked about Buddhism as a way to a kind of a new kind of attention, new kind of deep attention. And it's like Heidegger's concept of deep boredom, you know. Like young children, smartphones are in a kind of a form of boredom, right? A kind of attention grabbing, right? The mobile phone grabs their attention like a laser beam, and they can't escape it. Now, Han Byung-chul talks about a new kind, a Buddhist thought, which is like a more therapeutic mode of attention. Huh? Do you see what I mean? Like instead of a flat attention, this is what Kojève would call the flat attention, right? Like mobile phone is like addiction. This kind of addiction is a flat kind of attention, which is difficult to escape. Huh? That's why the mobile phones are so addictive, you know, and the video games too, because they play like a gambling machines. Unanticipated reward in neuroscience, you know, turn left, get some gold, turn right, big monster, you know, this thing. Huh? This is neuroscience. And the guys who make the smartphones are experts at this, getting our attention. Huh? Now, okay, so as I said, to get to your point, as I said that, I'm not a Buddhist. I'm atheist. Atheism is serenity for me, because I read Deleuze and Guattari. Serenity, okay, atheism. I don't believe in God. But there's something in Buddhism which is maybe if you like Han Byung-chul, maybe you can form a new kind of attention. So, but regarding the mobile phone, you're right. We have to learn how to use our addictions, a new kind of addiction. This is what Stiegler says. Not just a poisonous addiction that is affecting your boy and my son and my daughter and my wife, everybody, you know, my students, huh? But the mobile phone, for example, one kind of industrial temporal object, Stiegler calls this, okay? We have to use it in what Guattari calls the objet petit c, abc. So Lacan is the object petit a, and Winnicott is object petit b, and Guattari calls it objet petit c. Huh? So we have to learn how to use the technical objects within the educational institutions. So, for example, Guattari has in the labor, la grille, the new schema to break the relationship between a doctor and a patient, huh? Like the doctors cleaning the dishes and stuff like this. Huh? He calls this institutional object, object petit c. So I think a mobile phone is object petit b, like a Winnicott object, because we need to make a relationship with the object. Huh? And also to think about desire, like Lacan's idea of object petit a. But this new system, we have to learn how to use the technical objects in the educational institutions to form a new kind of addiction. That means that our students get addicted to learning, which is like my dream, right? Like a student sitting in the library reading Deleuze, huh? It's my dream, you know? But it doesn't happen because they're checking Facebook and looking, you know, blah, 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 and stuff like this. So the object petit ABC might be a way to respond to the devastation of the way we use technical objects.
Sí, me gustaría hacerle una pregunta a Sabrina. Es muy básica mi pregunta. En la pandemia, en algunos lugares, por ejemplo en Perú, dado que no había un suficiente apoyo estatal en pequeñas comunidades, comenzó a haber una suerte de solidaridad entre ellas, creando ollas comunes, creo que también en otros países, ¿no? Entonces mi pregunta es, ¿de qué manera esos ámbitos de solidaridad tradicional podrían conectarse con esta solidaridad que estás planteando? Y aún más, si estos podrían ser catalizadores para que no se queden solamente en un ámbito micropolítico, sino también de qué manera esa solidaridad pueda conectarse en un ámbito macropolítico, ¿no? Esa sería mi pregunta. Y de paso aprovecho también brevemente para señalar que los colegas que deseen pueden enviar su paper a favor o en contra de Guattari a la revista Reflexiones Marginales hasta el 31 de octubre. Cualquier cosa me dicen. Gracias.
Gracias por tu pergunta. Sabe que minha ideia de investigação de doutorado, em princípio, era me juntar com regiões mais precarizadas socioeconômicas em Brasil para poder experimentar aí como há tipo de sociabilidade diferente da sociabilidade sudestina, que é onde estou e onde vivo. Incluso pensando em la diferença com a macropolítica, não com os resultados das eleições. Eu não pude ir por dois motivos, porque perdi minha beca de doutorado e por conta da pandemia. Aún não desisti de pensar um pouco sobre esta solidariedade outra, que, claro, talvez algumas populações aún puedan estar aí por um tipo de sociabilidade e solidariedade outra que as possibilita continuar. Não sei quem foi que disse em uma charla ayer sobre um indígena brasileiro, não sei se brasileiro incluso, pero um indígena que disse que com todos os nossos problemas que nos assolam, incluso crise climática, ele não está muito preocupado por eles que estão sobrevivendo há 500 anos, mas estão preocupados por os brancos, que não podem viver de outra forma que não seja, vamos dizer, nossas vidas de consumo em las capitales, que seja na universidade ou onde seja, não? Então, eu não abandonei a ideia da solidariedade desobediente, porque penso que sim, ela talvez seja algo mais presente nesses sítios, nessas comunidades, pero ela talvez atravesse outros lugares também, que estamos menos acostumados a pensar que há. Não sei, aún estou me perguntando e me perguntando como vou responder a isso. Muitas graças, querido.
Can I
Sorry, I added on some your discussion. Actually, what I want to say is that definitely you talk about relation between addiction and technology. I think there might be some misunderstanding about the relation because technology does not want you addict to something, all right? It's kind of metonymy in Lacanian sense. Capitalism does not want you addict to something. That is actually the enslavement desire. When actually Deleuze and Guattari talk about the machinic enslavement, it does not mean that you addict on object and then you actually dig into that kind of something. It doesn't mean that. That is not political. That is a politic. Politic is obsession. Politic is a madness, all right? But all this machine, technology, lets you actually get out of that kind of, some addiction. So addiction is very dangerous. So in capitalist society, consumer society does not want you addict to something. And then what they want to do is definitely, what you want to do is definitely move from this object to that object easily. That is actually the logic of capitalism. But actually, that's why just the education, knowledge, even as Foucault said, the knowledge is definitely, the Kant's problem is that, space and time is the condition of knowledge. But what Deleuze and Guattari try to say, you must get out of that kind of knowledge, and then you must, recreate the condition of the knowledge. That is a line of flight. You must bring in the future. What is the future? The condition, new condition of knowledge. It's not that you are just stuck to the knowledge. That's why knowledge as such and technology are bothersome. Technology is stupid. You actually Google, try to Google your name on the internet. What happened? That the algorithm doesn't know about you, but you should give the information to them. That is actually machinic enslavement. You actually slaved under the machine and that technology. That is not addiction. You must get addiction onto something new. That is I want to say. That is politics.
Tenemos más manos, pero tengo primero la... Igual después no me podés retar, José, por haber demorado. Si preguntás no me podés retar por haber demorado.
Muchas gracias. Bueno, yes, it is a diagram within desire. It is not technology itself. It is the diagram that controls certain assemblages. It's not technology is not bad in itself. So we must have the capacity to change the diagram, to change the assemblages. Just talking with your opinion. So, Sabrina, me gustó al final que dijiste la solidaridad otra, porque justamente me parece que la solidaridad tal cual como nos llega está como teñida de la culpa. Entonces, la solidaridad otra sería a partir de otros afectos. Y ahí me parece que es muy interesante que la solidaridad en la precariedad es un modo de existencia, no un sentimiento, no una manera, diríamos, externa. Incluso si en las comunidades precarizadas la solidaridad es un modo de vivir para poder sobrevivir en muchos casos, creo que es interesante también pensar que es una forma de vida aneconómica. O sea, quiero decir que esa solidaridad es excesiva per se. Está bien, en Chile también se produjeron las ollas comunes durante la pandemia, pero nunca es una medida de mera circulación de bienes o de atenciones, sino que siempre es desmedida, siempre es sin pensar en sin pensar en el mañana. Entonces es interesante que hay un modelo económico que es aneconómico en la solidaridad de los grupos precarizados.
So I suppose I'm reiterating a question, but it's on this point of addiction, and it's this worry I keep having that Western philosophy has become addicted to the concept and to conceptual thinking that, say, yogic or meditation techniques seek knowledge in a wholly other medium. And yeah, do you have anything to say about that? I even see it happening with kind of art since, say, the 60s, that is constantly seeking to explain itself in the conceptual form, which seems to be completely just a complete territorialization of concepts on thinking. And is that a concern, a form of addiction that we... It's been noted by Plato, but I mean, we're still in the midst of it.
I was captured by the iPhone. No, but I was to share a small, fast reflection about Plato in the Phaedrus. In the end of the first part, he makes a critique to writing. Plato says that writing is going to block our capacity of remember, to have the experience of contemplation of the shine of the mystery. Then I think that the cell phone and capitalism and modernity and blah 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 is nihilism. I think that Deleuze at this point is with Nietzsche. Now we are in every return to the progress and science and concept and blah blah blah. We have just noise. Cell phone is. We cannot make art with cell phone. We cannot have a develation of the
So actually we can use the technology in different ways. There's a minor use of technology, minor use of literature. It's not a rejection of technology. If you reject technology, you read of it. How elite would you like it?
I have to use it because I am a slave.
Mutual technology, mutual. But you can use it. That is important. And experience will be only truth. That is a Deleuze and Guattari's argument. What is the truth? That is experience. But you actually, your argument, I think the lack of that, the problem of experience. Actually the concept. Okay, just one of the attributes is a Spinoza argument. We have a lot of attributes, but the concept is kind of intellectual attribute. One of them. Human being could get that one. But it's not, how can I say? It's not privileged, But actually, the Plato, think that the concept and then the intellectual power is privileged, and then more than better than the animal. But actually, Deleuze got to challenge that one. I don't think actually that is attribute is equal, but the only attribute human being can get is conceptualization. That is a concept. And then Deleuze said, the philosophy must learn something, from the art. Art is the only thing which can, deal with the thing as such.
Bueno, hago la pregunta, me había quedado pendiente, aprovecho para comentar el tema, que me parece interesante lo que planteó Jesús al final, el tema del valor maquínico, la idea de el valor maquínico. Me parece un problema muy grande, porque no es pequeño problema, porque implica cambiar toda la teoría del valor, porque no funciona nada si las máquinas, si el capital constante produce valor. Bueno, hay muchos problemas, pero habría que pensar cuál es el lugar de estas máquinas, estos celulares, en esta producción de plusvalor maquínico, y cómo se configura dentro de esto, y también quitarle un poco al plusvalor el aura malvada. Así que bueno, no sé si querías profundizar sobre el tema del plusvalor. And for Schoff, I had two questions. Left one, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Alex will be very angry, you told him Heideggerian. In the Deleuze conference is a very big. Yeah, but you're a Heideggerian. Very, very, very bad. So, no. But no, but when you are angry about these philosophers you didn't like, you said the anti-statalism of one of them, I think. Anti-politic. And so what I would like to ask you is, in this way of opening the system, if you don't believe that the state has a role, like education is not only us giving our courses, but also all a system that may be also a tool to open some closed systems, maybe.
Gracias por tu pregunta, Julián. De hecho, es así, ¿no? El concepto, no solo el concepto de plusvalor maquínico, sino el concepto de valor de deseo, son conceptos que ponen en crisis las categorías de Marx. Definitivamente, para Marx, lo único que produce valor es el trabajo humano, ¿no? Es un capital variable, mientras que las máquinas, los instrumentos son capitales constantes que a lo sumo preservan el valor, pero no crean nuevo valor, ¿vale? Entonces, cuando Guattari habla de plusvalor maquínico, introduce la idea de que las máquinas pueden producir valor, por un lado, y por otro lado, de que humanos y máquinas forman un nuevo agenciamiento que produce valor. Entonces, ahí sería preguntarnos, ¿realmente esto anula o no la conceptualización marxiana? Justamente, en Chile, me parece, va a salir un artículo mío sobre ese tema. Yo creo de que realmente no. ¿Por qué? Porque las nuevas máquinas, sobre todo pensemos en algunas tecnologías como la inteligencia artificial, que definitivamente podemos pensar de que ya tienen un relativo grado de autonomía, ¿no? Con el machine learning, etcétera, en el cual ya no necesitan casi ninguna intervención humana para que las empresas puedan seguir produciendo, ¿no? Sus elementos. Pero habría que matizar dos cosas. En primer lugar, que toda máquina es producida por humanos o por humanos y máquinas, y en ese sentido seguiría estando ahí esa creación del valor humana. Y en segundo lugar, que estas máquinas podrían también darnos a otro concepto, que sería que la explotación no solamente sería obra humana, sino sería también una explotación maquínica y una explotación de la naturaleza, porque generalmente la explotación o la producción de plusvalor se piensa solamente en el ámbito humano, ¿no? Entonces, más que anular la conceptualización marxiana, yo creo que lo que lo hacen es simplemente ayornarla, ¿no? La actualizan, porque en el siglo XXI, evidentemente, ya no es el capitalismo industrial del siglo XIX, ¿no? Ahora tenemos algoritmos, machine learning, etcétera. Entonces, en vez de anular, porque hay muchos teóricos que de hecho parten de que ahora, con estas nuevas tecnologías, la concepción marxiana queda obsoleta, pero creo que con Guattari podríamos señalar no, de que al contrario, podemos pensar que en estas nuevas tecnologías aún existe la cuestión de una valoración humana, y creo que eso puede resolverse, pero lo que me parece mucho más crítico aquí, Julián, es la cuestión de la baja tendencial de la tasa de ganancia, porque eso aún no lo he pensado con mayor profundidad, pero creo que definitivamente lo que me parece es lo siguiente. Yo creo que la estrategia actual de la burguesía actual, sobre todo la burguesía tecnológica no asentada de Silicon Valley, es, dado de que ya no hay manera de producir más plusvalor, bueno, en la década de los 90-70 fue una financiarización de la economía, la que permitía, pues luego de la crisis del modelo fordista, pues producir valor basándonos en el capital ficticio. No, yo creo que su nueva estrategia es apostar todas las máquinas, porque ya no podemos extraer más plusvalor los humanos, ya el modelo financiero, pues con la crisis del 2007 fracasó. Ahora, la nueva estrategia, creo yo, es las máquinas. ¿Pero para qué? Porque la burguesía siempre busca, pues, evitar, ¿no?, ese fantasma de la baja tendencia de la tasa de ganancia. Entonces, probablemente, con esto, habría que pensar nuevas maneras en la cual, si realmente con las máquinas la tasa de ganancia va a decaer o no. Entonces, yo creo que en todo caso, más que simplemente buscar que las máquinas solas vayan a eliminar el problema de tasa de ganancia, sería ahí un problema político, ¿no? De qué manera podemos agruparnos políticamente para que suceda o no esto de la baja tendencia de la tasa de ganancia. Vamos a poder cuestionar el uso de las tecnologías, y eso lo conecto justo con la discusión que están teniendo con los colegas, porque de hecho Guattari introduce el concepto de sociedad postmediática. Va, entonces, bueno, simplemente que esa cuestión se conecta con la sociedad postmediática. Eso es ahí termino.
The techniques, so we have to close. We continue the discussion. Ahora, bueno, muchas gracias por la mesa, la extraordinaria mesa de cierre. Generó mucha discusión. Y ahora unas palabras finales de cierre de parte de los organizadores y cada cual.
Bueno, nada más, antes de que se vaya, agradecer a los presentes. Thank you very much for coming. And